Ricky Watters was one of the most fascinating players in the 90s. Numerous words with a lot of various adjectives could be used to describe the Notre Dame product. But one thing that was certain, Watters produced during his 10-year NFL career, so much that a valid case can be made that Ricky Watters should be in the Hall of Fame. This video is going to be a brief documentary and take a look back at the running back's career and then take a look at his Hall of Fame case. As aforementioned, Watters went to Notre Dame, and during his time there, the amount of weapons on offense was ridiculous. Thus, Watters never got more than 118 carries in a season, but showed he had the ability to catch the ball in Notre Dame's run-happy system. According to a Washington Post article, Watters claimed that his college coach Lou Holtz held him back from being a star by frequently forcing Watters to play flanker, in which Holtz denies, as Watters thought he could have won the Heisman, and that prompted Watters to work incredibly hard to be the greatest. For the 1991 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers were looking for someone to replace Roger Craig, who signed with the Raiders. As a result, San Fran selected Watters in the second round, 45th overall. This seemed to be the perfect selection with Ricky's tremendous ability to catch passes out of the backfield in the West Coast system, but Watters would not play a game in the 1991 NFL season due to injuries. Now, during this time, the 49ers were one of the best teams in the NFL with a lot of veterans, but Watters would still run his mouth and could be described as brash or arrogant. For the 1992 NFL season, Watters would be good to go, and according to a New York Times article, after Ricky Watters had his first NFL carry for 5 yards, Watters would come back to the huddle and scream, "They can't stop me, they can't stop me." That same article also mentioned that Watters was wearing a bandana that said big-headed sportswear. Furthermore, some of his defensive teammates began roughing him up in practice. But Watters produced in 1992, playing in 14 games, and like I said, he was perfect for San Fran's West Coast offense with his tremendous receiving ability and with Steve Young's tremendous ability to throw accurate passes to his backs with touch. Now, despite missing the whole 1991 season, it looked like San Fran found their versatile back to replace Roger Craig. Enter the 1993 NFL season, and in San Fran's season opener against Pittsburgh, Watters headbutted his Steelers defensive back, and thus Watters was ejected from the game. Nonetheless, Watters continued to produce in 1993, playing in 13 games, and in 1994, San Francisco won the Super Bowl in a year where Watters had a career high in total yards. Watters was a Pro Bowler for his first 3 years in San Francisco, but free agency was on the horizon. Now, around this time, San Francisco is known for their salary cap maneuvering that drew the ire of some owners, but despite that, a San Francisco Gate article stated that the 49ers had a tough choice to make. Either have to pay Ricky Watters more money than they wanted to, which would cause salary cap problems, which could also lead to having a veteran's contract being restructured, or let Watters go to Philadelphia. The end result, Watters signed a 3-year, $6.9 million deal with the Eagles, and things got really interesting for Watters in Philadelphia. For the 1995 NFL season, the Eagles had a new coach in Ray Rhodes, who was the defensive coordinator previous season in San Francisco. The offensive coordinator would be a young John Gruden, who would run the West Coast offense. The Eagles opened up at home against Tampa Bay, and it was nice seeing Tampa wearing their creamsicle jerseys, but anyways, here's how things went. On Ricky's first carry, he fumbled the ball, then slipped on a screen pass, and then the fans booed when they took out backup running back Charlie Gardner to bring in Watters. Sarcastically, Eagles fans cheered then when Watters got 5 yards, and at one point Watters had 15 rushes for 24 yards. He was being continually booed. Then late in the fourth quarter, Watters was able to get open about 25 yards in the middle of the field, which was very rare for running backs back then. But anyways, Randall Cunningham threw a perfect pass, but Watters decided not to fully stretch and make an effort to catch the ball. After the game, when asked about the play, Watters responded emphatically, saying, "For who? For what?" Much later on, Watters regretted saying that. Now, despite this horrendous start to Ricky Watters' career in Philadelphia, Watters would be quite productive in Philadelphia for the 3 seasons he was in Philly. Now, Ricky Watters was extremely brash and emotional about wanting the ball, which caused a lot of tension with the offensive coordinator, John Gruden. But aside from all this continuous feuding, there was some team success during the first 2 seasons in Philly that included 2 playoff appearances, in which one was a shocking 58-37 blowout over the Lions. And like I said, Ricky Watters was productive in Philadelphia as he led the NFL in touches and total yards in 1996 and was twice named a Pro Bowl player while in the city of brotherly love. But after the 1997 NFL season, the Eagles decided not to sign Watters as they had Charlie Gardner to replace number 32. But the Seattle Seahawks, it'd be them who would sign Ricky Watters, and they signed him to a 4-year, $13 million deal. Now, while with San Francisco and Philadelphia, there seemed to be few boring days with Ricky Watters, as he did not have the best reputation. but by all accounts, it was reported that Waters toned down his act while playing in the Northwest. According to a Sports Illustrated article, Seahawks head coach Dennis Erickson cursed out Waters during training camp, but afterwards the two had a better relationship and respected one another, with Erickson having an open door policy. But in that article, Erickson also appealed to Waters' sense of leadership that really resonated with Waters. Erickson also thought that Waters would help instill a winning culture. Joey Galloway was quoted in 1998 saying, "The only thing that matters to me is what he's done since he's been a Seahawk. And since he's been here, he's been a leader and a great team guy." But Erickson was fired after the 1998 season, and in would be West Coast offense guru Mike Holmgren. But Ricky Waters also thought that Holmgren saw Waters as a big-time leader, someone the younger players can look up to as they see how hard he practices and goes at it. But after 4 seasons in Seattle, 3 which were very productive, and Sean Alexander ready to become the feature back in the Northwest, Waters would retire with a lot of accomplishments during his 10-year NFL career. But is it enough to put Ricky Waters into the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Now to begin, it was fun. It was entertaining watching Ricky Waters run the ball. It was fun watching him juke and cut, as he seemed to be doing those things very instinctively. Waters always kept his legs moving, was quick to get to the hole, and it seemed like he knew how to get skinny going through a hole. And taking a look at his highlights later on, I never really noticed this, but he was really good at getting through the hole and then understanding when to cut it to the outside. And when looking at his career stats, one can argue he's a Hall of Famer because of his productivity. And productivity is a big part of making it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. However, I never really saw Ricky Waters as elite as the other backs during this period. A long time ago, I said no to Ricky Waters, but however, I have changed my mind, and here's why. Running the ball, there's a lot to like about Ricky Waters. As like what I mentioned earlier, his running production and eye test to me wasn't as good as the other running backs during this era, but there were just so many great running backs during the 90s and early 2000s. Now his yards per carry isn't that appealing, some of it could be the offensive line, but part of it is also Ricky Waters did not have great speed, and that kind of hurt his yards per carry. But the problem is I look too much at Ricky Waters just running the ball, which is the main objective for backs back then, but stupidly, I did not take more into account into Ricky Waters in the passing game back then. Now to me, from how I view the game, I think up until the late 2000s, Ricky Waters was the second best receiver out of the backfield behind Marshall Faulk. And a part of me is tempted to say that Ricky Waters is the second greatest receiving back ever behind Faulk. Now I know other running backs had better numbers, most noticeably Larry Sanders, who was also great at catching passes. And I know his performance versus Tampa Bay in 1995, how he alligator armed that pass, does not help my case. But watching Waters naturally catch passes with his great hands and turning upfield with fluidity, then getting yards after the catch made me think he was truly an elite pass-catching back. And his 9.1 yards per catch is truly great for a running back. And thus, because of that ability, along with what he did in the running game, I would have to say that Ricky Waters is a Hall of Famer. Not only was Ricky Waters a fascinating player, he has a fascinating case to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So comment below, tell me what you think about Ricky Waters, and if you think that Ricky Waters should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Real quick, I just want to thank all those who have supported 90 Sports Nostalgia. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, and check out the links below for Patreon and merch. Thank you so much. Ricky Waters, should he be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?